with these action steps, but they need to start at where Samaya is in order to ensure that they're progressing.
Got it.
Yep. So the last thing that you'll do in here is go through all the rest of those step levels, but then identify and uncover what is Samaya. Also, what is the gap that Samaya has, and it's probably in one of the other components that we didn't get a chance to look at.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do now is go to the next group, and these scholars at what step level?
2.
Yep. So go to step 2 in your component breakdown, and you'll notice this one's laid out for us. So the question again, let's identify the literacy components where the majority of the students struggle.
Reading accuracy.
Yep, reading accuracy. So let's click on reading accuracy. Oh, this is Samaya. So these are what scholars have achieved. What they did not achieve is what is in here. Okay. So this is Samaya's reading accuracy.
Okay.
Scroll down where it says what errors did she make.
She made 6 errors. All
Yeah.
of them were substitution.
All of them in substitution. So what we gotta do next is go to her actual, like, what does her reading record look like?
Okay.
And so look at her errors. What are they?
With the runaway, she said, look out, and then again for all 3 of those.
Yeah, so what do you notice about this text?
That was the one when the first couple pages look out, and then it was it runaway?
This one was runaway, but
Yeah.
if you notice the text though, the commonality is that this is a pattern, right?
Yep.
So in step 1, the step 1 guided reading levels, you're gonna focus a lot on pattern.
Okay.
So what does Samaya need?
To work on reading instead of going along with the pattern.
Well, yes, but she actually
Okay.
needs to actually use the pattern for her practice fluency. So she actually needs pattern text. You can use these sight words are at that particular level, and then she uses the picture to say, okay, that's rabbit, right, and that's mouse, and that's bird. But she needs to ensure that in this case, like, she's following suit with the pattern. What does the pattern say? And repeat it every time. So in that case, when you are working with them at the guided reading table and it's pattern, I want you to go to Samaya every time. Samaya,
Okay.
what's the pattern? Samaya, your turn. Everybody, the pattern is. So your focus on her is pattern. Excuse me. Okay, so that wraps up that group. So now we gotta go to step 3, which is great, because now we're gonna go comprehension conversation.
Okay.
So they achieved step 2, they did not achieve step 3. So step 3 is where we're going the component breakdown here.
Okay.
So in your yeah. Let's focus on the reds with our time remaining. We have 2 reds. What are those 2? So what are the step components?
Segmentation.
Yes.
And comprehension conversation.
In conversation. I want to model this one or go through this one for you, so that way, because this is going to be the majority of the stalls for the next group. So let's dive into conversation.
Okay.
So STEP has their exemplar responses. And so we're gonna, when we look at the conversation, we're gonna align ourselves with what is the question, what is the exemplar response, and then we need to say what are students doing instead of the exemplar response. So component breakdown is amazing because when you, what does your screen look like? Yeah. And then click on, so this one actually doesn't, the other step components, the higher up, when you click on the step level, it'll actually tell you, it'll actually go to the questions and everything like that. So, but for the time being, we have the handouts. So I want you to look at, again, what is the question, what is the exemplar response? This is always is blank. And on here, remember 3 types of comprehension conversation, 3 types of
Factual.
yeah.
Differential and critical.
Yep. And so when when it shows what it shows here in this case is it's saying what students got right and how many and the percentage of that, the average. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so the average should be 4. The target should be 4. The average was 3.3. So they got factual.
Okay.
But you can see where they struggle.
Yep.
Where did they struggle?
Inferential and critical thinking. Well, no, not inferential, critical thinking.
Yeah, critical thinking for sure. And then there was 1 or 2 students that also struggled with inferential. Okay, so this is our factual, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was our first inferential, and in fact, every that one was wrong. Okay, and then that one was also wrong. So let's look at the inferential. That is where they struggled, and then let's say, so what is the exemplar response here, and then what are students doing and why they didn't achieve that question.
Number 2, what job would make her leave first? No, it's astronaut. A lot of them just said the moon or outer space, instead of saying the actual job.
Okay, and then so this is where you want to go to down this, right? So step 3, and then so looking. Or when thinking about that, then what is missing from their response? Actually, yeah, not this yet. Sorry.
Okay.
But what is missing from the response?
At least for number 2.
Yeah.
Just the actual job for most of them.
And so the exemplar response was what?
Astronaut going to the moon. Yeah, because a lot of them just at the moon. Yeah.
Yeah. So astronaut or going to the moon, and we noticed that like the 2 scholars that got it wrong, it was limited because they had mentioned moon in both.
Yep.
But it wasn't.
But it wasn't going to.
Which would be the job? Yeah, because the moon is a place
Yeah.
or like a thing, right? So like thinking about what they're missing is the actual act. So being that it was limited, let's take a look at the step prompts. Like when they're in guided reading, what questions would you ask when they provide a limited response? Yeah, we did.
Tell me more. Yeah, student gives a limited response. Tell me more.
Yep.
Or
yeah, I would say that.
Yeah, just that.
Yep, I would say that for sure. Yep. And then so when we in guided reading with particularly with ML and Isabel, we want to make sure that they're expounding on the answers and they're telling us more. But here's this data is interesting here. So now we have another question here, and this is where this is number 3. So let's take a look at ML. The question is, what does she think she would do as a teacher? The response is read books. The exemplar response is to kids and teach kids to read. And so look at what ML put: teach school, help others. And so in this case, help other kids so they can be smart like her. That's his personal experience. Nowhere in the text did it say that. So it's limited, yes, but it's actually personal experience. So we want to point ML back to the text.
Okay.
Because if he looks at the text, if you recall the book, and if we had time, we'd go to the book, actual book, but it shows the student or the teacher reading books to kids, and you see all of the textual evidence in the picture that supports that answer.
Okay.
So with ML, what we want to do, and this is where you want to go. So with ML, when you are working with ML, where you want to go is you want to make sure that he's citing evidence.
Okay.
And so what prompt should you use for ML to get him to do that?
Look back to find where the reader tells about. What is your evidence for that? On what page did you find evidence about? And reread page blank. What did you learn about?
So these are options of questions. Which one? Which one should we use?
What is your evidence for that? or on what page did you find evidence about?
Yeah, and I think so. What is your evidence for that? Would be like that would help with his like to help other kids be smart. He might go off on a different path, right?
Oh, okay.
So I want him to like. I think
Just
the
start with
first one, yeah. Let's look back and to find where the writer tells us about.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that will get him to go because that's initially what he needs to do. Go back to it. So let's write that prompt down for that particular for ML really for that group.
Can I write on the sheet?
Yeah, you can have those.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then let's to close out here. Let's do one more with respect to the same group. So look at that last question. It's a critical thinking question.
Why does the girl say that for now she is happy to be a kid? The exemplar response is she likes thinking about what she'll do when she grows up. She has fun doing kid things. She doesn't feel grown up yet. For ML, but it's fun to be a kid. But it's fun to be a kid. So, and exemplar.
Yeah. So like, what you'll notice is all they're either limited, and then in fact one was confused. That's personal experience. But you'll notice that this is where this reading companion is going to help you because we're asking how this character feels. At the end of the story, how does she feel? And so you'll see the character feelings in this step 3 line up here. This is where students struggle to use personal experience in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Like I need to use personal experience to connect back to how I know that's how she feels. So what questions from here should you use for all 3 of those scholars?
Which text evidence did you use?
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
To make your personal connection, right? Like that's for ML for sure. Like it's fun to be a kid. So ML, what text evidence did you use to make your personal connection? But for the others, I think I would go here, right? How does the character feel at the end of the story? How do you know? And then that's where you want to point out. How do you know she feels? Okay, someone put happy. She feels happy, but how do you know that? And then they would go back to the text to say, okay, this is my personal experience. I need to connect it to what's happening in the text. So these are the 2 questions that you should use for that. So I would just put character feelings down there, so that way you can, when you go back, you can make sure that and then let's do the follow up now. Given the time that we have, you go to 10:30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you'll do the same. So like we went deep into the actual gaps of what each group is at, and then you'll identify like just like we did uncover what are students doing that makes it a gap.
Okay.
And then what is your action step? So in this case, the action step is to, when you're reading the text, to ask ML this question every single guy to read lesson. To ask all the students this question every single guy to read around character feelings, or every single guy to read a lesson. Like that's the questions that you want to ask. These are more specific, right? So thinking about that, so thinking about the follow-up, on your schedule it says Thursday and Friday. I think it should for sure be 2 days.
Okay.
So and it depends on what step level scholars are at, because half a day is not going to be enough time for the rotation here.
Right.
So I would say just go back, when you're going back to look at this second, third grade, 2 or 3 times. I put 3 times here, but like given the levels that they're at, they need more comp. But these groups could use guided reading 3 times. But we'll start with 2 times a week, right?
Okay.
And then yeah, so given this email, there's a lot here. I just want you to let me know if you have any questions regarding this and what you need to do for next steps for Starlight. But I guess the follow-up, the takeaway is make sure that you assess Zoe and AT. And then also, I noticed that only a few scholars' baseline was marked